Welcome to Crisis in Perception, where we examine the systems shaping our world one book at a time.
It's good to be back.
Today we are tackling a real heavyweight. And I don't just mean that in terms of, page count or how dense the writing is, though there is plenty of that.
No, there is.
I mean, we're tackling a thinker who really just dismantles the very ground we think we're standing on. We're doing a deep dive into Hannah Arendt's collection of essays between past and future.
A very fitting title, considering the central tension we really need to get into today.
It really is. And I want to set the stakes right up front for you, because this isn't some dusty history lesson. The core systemic question we're looking at is this. What happens to a society, to us, to our ability to even think and judge when the inherited frameworks of authority, tradition, and meaning just suddenly collapse?
It's the feeling of vertigo. That's the best word for it.
Right. We're talking about that specific, almost terrifying moment when the old guideposts are gone. They've been torn down, or maybe they just wore away over time. But the new ones, well...
They haven't been built yet. There are no new ones.
Exactly. You're in a void.
It's like the sensation of walking into a room in the dark. You expect the furniture to be in a certain place, but the room is empty. You reach out your hand for a banister that isn't there.
And you stumble.
You stumble, and that's the key.
And usually, when people feel that stumble, they panic. They tend to fall into one of two camps. You get the nostalgic camp, the people crying about the good old days, trying to glue all the broken pieces back together.
Or the other side.
Or you have the utopian camp saying, burn it all down, the future will be perfect if we just completely destroy the past.
And Arendt just refuses both of those options. That's what makes her so essential right now. She is looking at the absolute wreckage of the 20th century, totalitarianism, world wars, the atomic bomb, and she just says, stop.
Just stop.
Don't run back to the past. It's broken. Don't run blindly into some imagined future. You have to stand right here in this gap and actually look at it.
So our mission today, really, is to map that void, to understand the system of the gap itself. This isn't a nostalgia trip, and it's certainly not a blueprint for a utopia. It's an examination of the structural conditions of how we think right now in this space between.
Precisely.
Now, before we get into the really heavy theory, I want to ask,
right.
Why does this matter today?
Uh-huh.
I mean, Arendt was writing this in the mid-20th century. The world has changed a lot since then, hasn't it?
Has it? I mean, I would argue that the gap she identified has only gotten wider. Just look around. We face these persistent crises in politics, in our education systems, in the very idea of truth, and in our culture.
We're constantly demanding action.
Constantly. We want solutions. We want to do something. We're obsessed with impact. But Arendt argues that we lack the shared reference points to even know why we are acting or what it is we're trying to preserve. We're acting with tremendous velocity, but without any coordinates.
We're moving fast, but we don't know where north is anymore.
That's a perfect way to put it. The magnetic pole of tradition has just dissolved. We're spinning.
That's a disorienting thought. So, okay, let's start with the author herself to ground us a bit. Hannah Arendt is often labeled a philosopher, but she didn't really like that label, did she?
No, she really didn't. She preferred the term political theorist. And that distinction isn't just, academic nitpicking. It really matters for how you read this book.
Okay, so what's the difference? Why does it matter?
Well, a philosopher in let's say, the traditional sense, think Plato, is someone who withdraws from the world. They leave the cave of all our human affairs to go look at the eternal Son of Truth. They deal in man with a capital M.
The abstract universal.
Exactly. Arendt wasn't interested in man in the singular. She was interested in men and women in the plural. She was deeply concerned with the world of appearances, the world where we all have to live together. She was concerned with the specific activities of thinking, judging, and acting right here in the public square.
So she's not sitting on a mountaintop somewhere. She's down in the town square with everyone else.
Precisely. And she's writing between past and future in a very, very specific context. This is the post-war era. The world has just witnessed things that were previously unimaginable. Totalitarianism, the Holocaust, the atomic bomb. The tradition of Western civilization didn't just, gently fade away.
It was shattered.
It shattered. It completely failed to prevent these catastrophes. So she sees the world through the lens of a permanent rupture.
So she isn't trying to fix it?
No, she isn't trying to glue the broken pieces of the Western tradition back together. She knows that Humpty Dumpty is down and he is not getting back up. She's trying to figure out how to move within the breakage. How do we live when the thread of tradition is well and truly broken?
There's this beautiful and really tragic anecdote she uses to set the scene. And it involves the French Resistance. It captures this feeling of lost bearing so well. It resonated with me because it feels like a movie script that just ends abruptly.
Yes, she references the poet René Char, a really powerful story.
Can you set the scene for us? Because this isn't the romanticized version of the resistance we often get in movies.
No, not at all. I mean, think about the reality of it. Say, 1944. You have these fighters. They are living in the woods and basements. They're always hiding. They are hunted people. But Char describes this very strange phenomenon. In the middle of this absolute nightmare, they found something they called a treasure.
A treasure. In the middle of all that.
Not gold or jewels. They found a public space. Because for the first time, they had stripped off their social masks. They weren't the baker, the lawyer, the father anymore. They were just challengers. They were acting together, nakedly, honestly, for a common cause.
And in that, they found freedom.
They experienced true freedom, the freedom to start something new. They were individuals acting in concert. It was an incredible, intense experience of public life.
It sounds intoxicating. A moment of just pure clarity in the middle of all that chaos.
It was. But then the war ended. Liberation came. The Nazis were defeated. And you'd think that would be the happy ending to the story. But Char writes this absolutely devastating line. Our inheritance was left to us by no testament.
Our inheritance was left to us by no testament. I sat with that line for a long time. It's so poetic, but let's unpack it from a systems perspective. What does he actually mean by a testament?
Think about a last will and testament. What does a will do? It does two things. It names the heir, I leave this to you, and it names the inheritance, I leave you this house.
It makes a connection.
It bridges the gap between the dead and the living. It provides continuity. It assigns a past to a future. It gives you instructions.
So it's the paperwork of tradition, in a way. It tells you what to do with the stuff you've been given.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The resistance fighters had the experience of freedom. That was the inheritance. That was the treasure. But they had no tradition, no language, no political structure, no testament to safely carry that experience into peacetime. So when the war ended, the treasure just it evaporated. They went back to being bakers and lawyers, and that intense, shining reality of the public space just vanished.
That's truly tragic. They held it in their hands, and it slipped right through their fingers because they didn't have a container for it.
And that is the tragedy of the modern age for Arendt. We have these moments of intense experience, but the thread of tradition that used to carry wisdom and meaning from the past to the future has snapped. We've inherited a world, but we haven't been given the will.
And that brings us right to the central thesis of the book, doesn't it?
It does. Modern society lives in this gap. The thread of tradition is snapped. Inherited meanings no longer pilot us on autopilot. You can't just rely on what your grandfather did, or what the church says, or what the Constitution implies, because the authority behind all those things has eroded.
So what's left?
Therefore, thinking itself becomes the only stabilizing activity left to us. We have to learn to think without a banister.
Okay, thinking without a banister. That's a phrase Arendt uses a lot, and it's a great image. But let's get into the mechanics of this gap. Arendt is a systems thinker, and she actually tries to visualize this break in time. She uses a parable from Franz Kafka to do it.
It's a brilliant visualization. She calls it the parallelogram of forces.
That sounds like something out of high school physics.
It is, in a way. It's a physics of the mind. So I want you to visualize a timeline. Usually we think of time as a line flowing from left to right. The past is on the left, the future's on the right, and we're just sort of flowing along with the river.
Sure, that's the standard history class timeline. Progress.
Okay, delete that image. Arendt through Kafka wants you to imagine a battlefield. There's a man standing on a road, and he's fighting two antagonists at the same time.
Okay, so I'm the man on the road. Who am I fighting?
The first antagonist is behind you. That is the past.
Okay, so the past is, what, dragging me back? Like nostalgia, like a bungee cord pulling me into history.
No, and this is the crucial twist in the model. The past isn't dragging you back. It is pushing you forward. It's this heavy weight, this enormous burden shoving you violently toward the future.
Hey, that's completely counterintuitive. Usually we think the past holds us back from progress.
Only if you think of the past as some warm, comfortable bed you want to stay in. But think of the past as a pile of debris or a massive wave crashing behind you. It propels you. It's a kinetic force that wants to resolve itself into the future.
Okay, so I'm being shoved from behind by this wave of history. What's in front of me?
The future. And the future isn't a magnet pulling you toward progress. It's not some shiny city on a hill waving you over. The future is an antagonist blocking the road. It's a gale force wind blowing back at you. It is driving you back toward the past.
So I'm literally being crushed between these two forces, pushed from behind by the past, pushed back from the front by the future.
Exactly. You are the friction point. You are standing in the breach. If you, the thinking human being, weren't there, the past and the future would just smack into each other and collapse into nothing. Your existence, your struggle is what keeps them apart. It's what creates the gap.
That sounds absolutely exhausting. It sounds like being in a mosh pit where both sides are trying to kill you.
Kafka says it is. He says the man dreams of jumping out of the fighting line. He wants to rise above it all, become an umpire, see the whole timeline from a god's eye view.
Which is the dream of metaphysics, right? Or religion.
It's the dream of escaping the crushing pressure of time, to find a place of rest outside the struggle.
But Arendt says we can't jump. We're stuck on the road.
We can't jump out of reality. We have to stay on the ground.
Yeah.
But, and this is the key, if we fight correctly, we can create a diagonal.
Help me visualize the diagonal. This is the parallelogram of forces.
Yes. Think about vectors from physics. If you have a force pushing you north, let's say that's the past pushing you forward, and a force pushing you east. Let's say that's the future pushing you back. I know the directions get a bit tricky, but stick with the vectors.
Okay.
If two forces hit an object at different angles, the object doesn't just go north or east. It moves in a diagonal trajectory. In Arendt's model, if we actively engage with the past and the future, if we think, we don't just get crushed.
We create a new direction.
A new path. A path that cuts across time.
So thinking isn't just sitting in an armchair with a pipe, contemplating things.
Far from it. In this system, thinking is a combat sport. It is the active, constant struggle to deflect these two overwhelming forces so you don't get crushed. It's what she calls a small track of non-time that every single generation must pave anew.
And the really scary part is, this track isn't permanent. You can't pave it once and just let your kids walk on it.
No, it cannot be inherited. Every generation, actually, Arendt would say, every single person has to pave this track for themselves. You have to fight for this space to think every single day. If you stop fighting, the gap closes, and you're just swept away by the forces of history.
Okay, so that establishes the condition of the individual. We are fighters in this time gap. But Arendt also looks at the macro system. She talks about how we as a civilization lost the ability to handle this gap. She describes a collapse of what she calls the Roman Trinity.
Right. This is insight number 2. For centuries, Western civilization was held together by a very specific tripartite system: tradition, religion, and authority.
The Roman Trinity, it sounds so monolithic. Let's break those down, because I have a feeling those words mean different things to us now than they did to the Romans.
Yeah, absolutely do. Okay, so first, tradition. For the Romans and later for the Christian West, tradition was the thread that guided you through the past. It told you where you came from. It was the testament we were just talking about. It wasn't just old habits. It was the living link to the very founding of the city.
So tradition is the map. It's the story of where you came from.
Second, religion. This was the binding force. The Latin word religare literally means to bind back. It tied the individual to the past and to the community. It wasn't just about believing in a deity. It was about being bound to a shared origin and a shared destiny.
And the third one is the big one for this book, and the one we've really lost, I think.
Yeah.
Authority.
Yes. Authority. And this one is really tricky, so we need to be very, very careful here. In modern English, when we say authority, we usually think of the police or a dictator or someone with a gun.
Right. We immediately jump to authoritarianism. We think of coercion, do this or else.
But Arendt says that is not authority. That is power, or more accurately, violence. Authority, in the original Roman sense, auctoritas, comes from the word augur, which means to augment or to increase.
To augment. What does that mean in this context?
Authority is the weight of the ancestors, the founding fathers, or the divine command that augments your own action. When a person has true authority, you obey them not because they can hurt you, and not because they persuaded you with a clever debate.
So it's not coercion and it's not debate. Then what on earth is it?
It's voluntary obedience based on a shared recognition of hierarchy. Think of the relationship between a parent and a child, historically speaking. The child obeys the parent not because the parent has a stick, that's violence, and not because the parent explains the nutritional logic of why they should eat their vegetables, that's persuasion.
The child obeys because the parent is the parent.
The parent holds a recognized status of responsibility for the world. It's a structural respect.
It's a pyramid.
It's exactly like a pyramid. The Roman structure was like a pyramid. The source of authority, the foundation of Rome, or later, God, was at the top, or really outside the structure, giving the whole thing legitimacy. Arendt's argument is that if one leg of this tripod tradition, religion, authority breaks,
The whole thing just collapses.
the whole thing goes. You cannot have authority without a tradition to validate it. You cannot have tradition without the binding force of religion holding it together. And Arendt argues that in the modern age, this entire pyramid has crumbled. The Roman Trinity is gone.
And this is where the system analysis gets really interesting. Because when that pyramid collapses, we don't just get a nice, flat, egalitarian field. We get something else. What happens when we lose authority?
We get confused, we get terrified, we start mistaking power for authority. Since we've lost that authentic authority that commands voluntary respect, we try to replace it with violence, which is tyranny, or with the total domination of what she calls the onion structure.
The onion structure. I love this image, but it's so disturbing. How does an onion work as a political structure?
That's her image for totalitarianism. In a pyramid, which is traditional authority, you have structure, you have stability, you have a clear top and bottom. Everyone knows where they stand in relation to the world. In an onion, you just have layers upon layers. The leader is in the very center. But the leader isn't looking out at the world. The leader is hidden.
And the layers protect him.
The layers protect the sender from the outside world. The parch members protect the leader from the sympathizers, who protect the party from the normal population. The whole structure is designed to insulate itself from reality.
So the fiction just permeates from the center outwards.
Yes. A pyramid integrates you into the world. The onion cuts you off from the world. It creates a completely fake reality where the ideology of the movement is the only thing that matters.
And this happens because we couldn't handle the freedom and the terror of the gap.
Precisely. The pyramid collapsed, we got scared of the open space, so we built an onion to hide inside.
Okay, so we've lost the testament of tradition. We've lost the stability of authority. And Arendt suggests this has fundamentally shifted how we view history itself. This is your insight 3, process versus meaning.
This is a profound shift, and it explains so much of our modern anxiety. We have moved from the ancient view of history to the modern view. For the Greeks and the Romans, history was all about immortality.
Immortality, you mean like living forever in heaven?
No, earthly immortality.
Yeah.
The ancients looked at nature and they saw that it was eternal. The seasons cycle, the stars orbit. Nature goes in these great circles and never really dies. But humans,
We're linear.
we are linear. We are born, we live, we die. We are the only mortal things in an otherwise immortal universe. So to achieve a kind of immortality, men had to perform great deeds, speak great words, and build great cities that would last, that would outlive them.
So history was like a showroom for greatness.
Exactly. It was a storehouse of examples. You
Mhm.
looked back to see greatness. You built a statue so it'd stand for 1,000 years. The focus was on the object, the deed, the law, the wall, the thing itself.
But that's not at all how we view history now.
Not at all. The modern view shifts from the object to the process. We stopped caring about the thing itself and started caring about its development. We view history as a stream, a current, a process of evolution or progress. We don't look at the past for examples of greatness. We look at it as a primitive stage that led to us.
So everything becomes a means to an end.
Yes, and that is the trap. The system condition of the modern age is that everything is a means. But as soon as you reach an end, that end immediately becomes a means for the next stage. It's a treadmill that never stops.
She had that famous line about the use of use.
Right. What is the use of use? If a chair is only useful so I can sit and work, and I work only to make money, and I make money only to buy more chairs, where does it stop? Where is the meaning in that chain? Meaninglessness is what arises when everything is a process and nothing is an end in itself.
And she connects this to technology, too. This part really struck me as prophetic. She talks about acting into nature.
It's absolutely critical. Before the modern age, we observed nature, or we cultivated it, like in farming. We worked with the cycles of nature. But with nuclear science, Arendt argues, is we have started acting into nature.
What does that distinction even mean, acting into?
It means we are triggering processes that would never happen on the Earth naturally. Splitting the atom does not happen in nature on Earth. We forced it. We injected a human-made process into the natural world. We have unleashed processes in nature just as we unleashed processes in history.
It's like chain reactions.
Exactly. We are setting off chain reactions, nuclear, biological, ecological, that we cannot control, and we call it progress.
We are making nature now, not just watching it.
And because we're making it, we are responsible for it in a way we never were before. But, and here's the kicker, we don't have the authority or the tradition to guide us in how to handle that responsibility. We have the power of gods, but the judgment of, well, of mass men in a collapsing system.
This brings us to what is maybe the most chilling part of her analysis, and honestly, the part that felt like it was written this morning, not 60 years ago. We have to talk about truth.
Insight number 4, truth and politics.
Arendt asks a very simple question. If we are floating in this gap without any authority, what happens to facts? And she starts by making a distinction I'd never really considered before. She separates rational truth from factual truth.
It's a vital distinction. Rational truth is the domain of the philosopher and the mathematician. 2 + 2 = 4. A triangle has 3 sides.
Abstract truths.
Yeah.
Logic. Things you can derive.
Right. And these are durable. If you burn every math book on Earth, eventually someone will figure out that 2 + 2 = 4 again. It's inherent in human reason. You can argue about it, you can derive it. It doesn't rely on witnesses.
But factual truth is different.
Factual truth is stubborn. It refers to events. Germany invaded Belgium in August 1914.
It's just a thing that happened.
Yes. But notice something about it. It didn't have to happen. Germany could have stayed home. It's contingent. It's messy. But once it happens, it is undeniably there. And Arendt says this makes factual truth despotic.
Despotic, like a tyrant. How's a fact a tyrant?
In a way. It demands your acceptance. It doesn't care about your opinion. It doesn't care if you think it's fair. It just says, this exists, deal with it. And because it is so rigid, politics hates it.
Why does politics hate it? I thought politicians loved facts. They're always citing statistics and studies.
Politicians love facts that support their narrative. But the nature of politics is about action. It's about changing the world. It's about looking at reality and saying, we can do better. The political mindset is always trying to persuade, to shift, to mold the future. But the fact stands there like a rock and says, you cannot change me. I happened.
So there's this fundamental conflict. The truth teller, the person who just states the facts, is kind of a buzzkill.
He is anti-political. He stands outside the fray. But here's where Arendt flips the script in a way that I find so fascinating. If the truth teller is passive, who is the man of action?
The liar.
The liar. Arendt argues that the modern liar is actually a political actor. He wants to change the world, just like the statesman. He looks at the reality. Germany invaded Belgium, and he says, I don't like that reality. It doesn't fit my narrative. I'm going to change it. Germany did not invade Belgium.
He is actively rewriting reality to fit a goal.
And that is an act of freedom in a really twisted way. It requires imagination. To lie is to act. To tell the truth is just to record.
That is deeply disturbing. It frames the liar not as a failure, but as a direct competitor to reality.
Exactly. And it gets worse. In the old days, a lie was just a tear in the fabric of reality. You hid the truth. You said, I didn't steal the cookie, while you were hiding the cookie behind your back. But Arendt looks at the modern age, the age of mass media and totalitarianism, and she sees something completely new.
It's not about hiding the cookie anymore.
Yeah. It's about destroying the very concept of cookie. If you control the history books, the media, the records, and the witnesses, you don't just hide the truth. You destroy the context in which truth can exist.
You make the lie true.
Functionally, yes. If no one remembers the invasion and no books record it and all the witnesses are gone, did it happen? Arendt warns us, facts are incredibly fragile. Unlike math, they can be lost forever. If we kill the witnesses and burn the documents, the fact that a man named Trotsky played a key role in the Russian Revolution just disappears. It's gone.
And once it's gone, no amount of reason can bring it back. You can't derive Trotsky from first principles.
Correct. And that is why the simple, stubborn defense of factual truth is the most dangerous and most necessary political act possible in our time.
Okay, let's pause and map this system out. We've covered a lot of ground: the gap, the parallelogram, the Roman Trinity, process versus meaning, and the fragility of truth. I want to make this really concrete for you. Who are the actors in this system she describes?
Well, Arendt identifies a few key archetypes that define our crisis. First, and maybe most importantly, you have the mass man. This isn't just the people. The mass man is a specific systemic creation. He is isolated. He lacks a common world to share with others because the old class structures and traditions have broken down.
He's lonely.
He is fundamentally lonely. And because he is lonely and lacks common sense, which for Arendt relies on a community checking your reality, he is incredibly susceptible to logical consistency.
To ideology.
To ideology. He wants a system that explains everything, even if it's a total lie, because reality is too messy and he can't trust his own judgment anymore. He trades reality for certainty.
Okay. Who else?
Then you have the educator. But in Arndt's analysis of the modern crisis, this is a truly tragic figure. The modern educator, she argues, often refuses to take responsibility for the world. They step back. They want to be equals with the children. They say, I wash my hands of this broken world. You kids figure it out. You are the future.
And then there's the scientist or the technocrat?
Right. The scientist is the one acting into nature, unleashing all these processes we talked about. But Arendt points out something fascinating in her essay, The Conquest of Space. The scientist uses mathematical symbols to describe the universe. These symbols work, they let us build bombs and rockets, but they can no longer be translated back into human speech.
We can do things we can no longer speak about or understand in a meaningful way.
Precisely.
So the incentives in this whole system are completely skewed.
Totally. The primary incentive is for functionality over meaning. We don't ask what a thing is, we ask what it's for, what's its value, what's the ROI, and the other big incentive is for certainty over truth. We prefer a consistent logical lie, an ideology, to the haphazard, messy, stubborn nature of reality.
And the feedback loop, how does this keep going?
It's a vicious cycle. The loss of authority leads to panic and insecurity. We try to fill that void with ideology or totalitarianism to get some stability, the onion structure. This then destroys the distinction between private and public life. This leads to a further loss of reality because we have no public space to check our perceptions. Which, of course, leads to a deeper crisis.
And why does it persist? Why don't we just stop?
Because we are terrified of the gap. We are terrified of that parallelogram of forces. It is exhausting to think without banisters, so we grab the nearest banister we can find, even if it's rotten or even if it's a cage. We try to fill the gap with pseudo-traditions or biological imperatives. It's just evolution. It's just economics, rather than doing the hard, painful work of thinking.
Let's bring this down to the ground. Arendt applies this framework to 3 specific areas that feel incredibly relevant right now. The first one is education. She wrote an essay called The Crisis in Education.
Yes, and this is often misunderstood. People sometimes think Arendt was a conservative about education. She wasn't a political conservative, but she believed education must be conservative in a very specific structural sense.
How so? Conservative usually implies, keeping things the same.
In education, she argues, conservation is an act of love. Education is the point where we, as a society, decide whether we love the world enough to assume responsibility for it. To educate a child, you have to stand as a representative of the world. You have to say, this is our world, this is how it works. These are our wars, our mathematics, our poems. You have to have authority.
But modern adults, as she argues, have a crisis of authority themselves.
Exactly. They don't want to say, this is the world. They don't want to admit the world is old and that they're part of the old guard. They want to be young, dynamic with it. They want to be the child's friend, not their guide.
So they abdicate authority. They say, I don't know, you decide.
Precisely. They refuse to assume responsibility. They tell the child, you are free, you govern yourselves. But Arendt says this is the ultimate form of abandonment. By refusing to say, this is our world, we leave children to the tyranny of their own peer groups. And crucially, we break the chain of continuity. We fail to protect the newness of the child.
Wait, how does authority protect the child's newness? That sounds backwards.
Because you can't change a world you don't know. If I want the child to be a revolutionary, to truly change the world, I first have to give them the world. I have to teach them the old ways so they have something solid to kick against. If I just leave them in a vacuum, they have nothing to change. They just float.
That is a powerful reframing. It's not about controlling the child. It's about giving them a platform to stand on so they can eventually jump off. The second area is culture. She talks about the Philistines.
This is from her essay, The Crisis in Culture. She makes a distinction between the old Philistines, the stereotypical businessman who hated art and just wanted to make money, and the modern educated Philistine. The modern educated Philistine claims to love art. But he loves it for all the wrong reasons.
He loves it as a status symbol.
Right. He treats culture as a value, a social commodity to be circulated. You read the book so you can talk about it at the cocktail party. You buy the painting to show your sophisticated status.
It just becomes currency.
It becomes a consumer good. And consumer goods are meant to be used up. They are biological or metabolic. You eat a loaf of bread, it's gone. It nourishes you for a moment, then it disappears. But culture, real culture, is supposed to be worldly. It is supposed to last. A cathedral, a statue, a great poem. These are things that are meant to outlast us. They arrest our attention. They stop the metabolic process of life.
So when we treat art as entertainment, we are literally destroying it.
We are digesting it. We turn Hamlet into a comic book or a bite-sized clip for social media. We consume it, and once it is consumed, it's gone. It no longer stands as a pillar of the world. It's just content.
The permanent furniture of the world dissolves into a temporary snack.
That's a great way to put it. And without that furniture, the world becomes less permanent, less stable. We feel more adrift.
Okay, the third implication is science. We touched on this with Acting into Nature, but let's go a little deeper into her essay, The Conquest of Space.
This brings us back to that idea of world alienation. Arendt was writing this as the space race was just getting started. Everyone was looking up at the stars thinking, this is the glorious expansion of man. Arendt looked up and said, this is the diminution of man.
Why? Space travel seems like the ultimate human triumph.
Because it represents us leaving the Earth, both literally and figuratively. We are earthy creatures. We are conditioned by the Earth. Our language, our senses, our bodies are built for this gravity, this atmosphere. But our science allows us to adopt an Archimedean point, a point outside the Earth. We look back at our own planet as an object.
We see the blue marble from space?
Yes. And while that image is beautiful, she argues it is also deeply alienating. We are no longer of the world. We are observers of it. And as we do this, using mathematical symbols and complex instruments to manipulate forces we can't see, we lose the ability to speak about what we are doing. The scientist can calculate the nuclear explosion, but he cannot describe its meaning in human language.
She has that line, man encounters only himself.
Yes, that's the terrifying paradox. We look into the vast universe with our instruments, but we only see the results of our instruments. We don't see the universe as it is. We see the reflection of our own mind's patterns. We are trapped in our own feedback loop. The stature of man diminishes because we can do things that we cannot comprehend. We're like the sorcerer's apprentice, unleashing powers we can no longer meaningfully talk about.
This connects so directly, so powerfully to what we talk about on this channel, the crisis in perception.
It's the absolute root of the crisis. We see systems replacing responsibility. We hide behind history or nature or market forces or the algorithm. We say, I didn't do it. The process made it inevitable, Arendt says. No, processes are started by humans. We are always responsible.
And perception filling the vacuum.
When that pyramid of authority vanishes, we don't get freedom. We get a vacuum. And into that vacuum rushes the tyranny of the majority or mass opinion or that totalitarian onion structure. We lose the ability to perceive crucial distinctions. We stop seeing the difference between power and violence or between truth and opinion. Everything just becomes a blur of values and preferences.
And clearly just being aware of this isn't enough to fix it.
No, that is the key. Knowing the process is happening isn't enough. We need judgment. Arendt is obsessed with the faculty of judgment, the ability to look at a particular thing, this flower, this political event, this person, and say, this is beautiful or this is wrong, without just relying on a pre-written rule book or a banister. That is the political faculty she believes we have lost.
So we've mapped a fairly bleak system here today. We have a broken tradition, a collapsed authority, a fragile concept of truth, and a world where lies are seen as a form of action. It feels like we are trapped in that parallelogram of forces, just waiting to be crushed.
It does, and if Arendt stopped there, she would just be another prophet of doom. But she isn't.
No, she's not. She leaves a light on in the dark room.
This is where the deep dive really pays off, because Arendt offers a concept that is uniquely hers. Most of Western philosophy is obsessed with mortality, the fact that we die. It defines so much of our thinking.
Memento mori, remember you will die.
Exactly. It makes us focus on the end. But Arendt, she is obsessed with natality.
Natality, the fact that we were born.
Yes. She argues that the realm of human affairs is always tending toward ruin, dust to dust, entropy. The natural order of things is to fall apart. But the miracle that saves the world again and again is the fact of natality, the fact that new human beings are constantly born into the world.
And why is that a miracle? It happens every second.
Because every birth is a new beginning. It is an infinite improbability. When a child is born, something enters the world that has never existed before. And because we are born, we all have the capacity to act, to start something new, to interrupt the process.
So the system, the machine, the process, the inevitable decline, it can actually be stopped.
It can always be stopped. Because we are not just mortals, we are beginners. That is our ontological nature. We are built to start things. The system of process tries to make everything automatic, inevitable. But action, which is human freedom, cuts across the cycle. It is the unexpected. It is the new.
So the permanence of the crisis.
Is an illusion, or rather it feels permanent because we keep trying to solve it with fabrication, making more systems, building more tools, rather than with action. We keep trying to plug the gap with cement, Arendt says. No, you have to live in the gap. You have to think in the gap.
That redefines the gap, doesn't it? It's not just the place where we get crushed, it's the place where we begin.
That is the challenge she leaves us with, and it is a heavy challenge. Can we bear the weight of the gap without reaching for the false security of an ideology? Can we tolerate the fact there is no banister?
Can we stand in that wind between the past and the future and have the courage to start something new?
Precisely. To assume responsibility for this world, even though we didn't build it, and protect it for the newcomers, for the children, that is what it means to live between past and future. It's not a comfortable place. It's a fighting line. But Arendt would say it's the only place where we are truly, fully human.
And perhaps that's what real thinking is. It's not finding the answer so you can finally stop thinking. It's having the courage to stay in the question.
Indeed. To stop searching for the banister and learn how to walk without it.
Hannah Arendt's Between Past and Future. A tough read, but an absolutely essential one. We encourage you to read the book or borrow it from a library. This project is free and publicly accessible. If you'd like to support the time, tools, and research behind crisis and perception, you can become a supporter on Patreon.
For a shorter visual overview of this topic, see the mini explainer linked in the description.
If you enjoy this kind of systems-level analysis, please like, subscribe, and comment with books or topics you'd like us to explore next. Thanks for listening.
Until next time.